Good morning. I'm George Latimer, Westchester County Executive. It's Wednesday, April 22nd, and while we're in the middle of this ongoing coronavirus outbreak, today's a very special day that has nothing to do with coronavirus. Today is Earth Day. In fact, it's the 50th anniversary of the first Earth Day. So we thought that in our conversation today, we would avoid, at least directly, talking about the overarching topic of the day and bring on the Executive Director of Teatown in the Ossining area, terrific guy, very involved in environmental concerns and issues, Kevin Carter. And Kevin, we're here to talk about Earth Day. Thanks for being on.
George, thank you for having me. It's my pleasure, and certainly happy to talk about Earth Day as a source of inspiration.
Now, I know you're a pretty young guy, and you might not have been there for that first Earth Day, but you know about the roots of Earth Day, why it started. Why is it important?
For me personally, I think it's a great example of a movement, an activist movement really driving policy change. And, that's really what Earth Day was all about. As you said, started 50 years ago. Wisconsin Senator Nelson, working with across the aisle with Pete McCloskey, a young student activist named Dennis Hayes. And what they created was really a phenomenon that spread across the nation, and in 1970, and it really was a powerful force for change. It brought on those incredibly important pieces of legislation like the Clean Air Act, the Clean Water Act, the establishment of the Environmental Protection Agency, and so that's the paramount thing to me, is that when people come together around an issue, it can really lead to meaningful policy change.
And I know that the organization that you lead, you interact with many of the other environmental organizations in the county and on a larger level. You're doing a lot of different important work. You want to just highlight some of what you're doing at Teatown that ties into these kinds of priorities?
Sure. Well, our mission is to inspire our community to lifelong environmental stewardship. Earth Day happens to be a day of the year where that really gets the spotlight really gets focused on it, but our work is year round. We work with people of all ages. We have a 1,000-acre preserve here, which is the largest community-supported preserve in Westchester County. And that's key because it connects people with the land. If people don't feel connected to the natural world, then they're really not inclined to protect it. So we make our preserve available, but we also run all variety of environmental education programs. Thousands and thousands of school kids come here and inspired to be good stewards of the environment. We have a new environmental science center, which is unique in the region, where high school students readying themselves for careers in environmental science are coming and doing hands-on research on the preserve. So it's a really wonderful organization, and it just so happens that we've been in existence a little over 50 years. So that same wave of education and activism that spawned Earth Day really spawned Teatown too.
I think back on a different anniversary, not exactly to the day, about 30 years ago, a little over that, New York State imposed a recycling law, which required us to source separate paper, newspaper, glass, plastic, and metal of a certain sort. And in its day, it was a very big change to lifestyles. And I remember going to my parents' house when my parents were alive down the south end of Mount Vernon. I think it was around 1990. I think the mandate came in 88 or 89, if I recall correctly. And I was at my parents' house, and my mom was taking a glass jar that she just cleaned out in the sink, and she started to throw it in the garbage can. And I said, "Mom, you can't do that." And she looked at me like, "What?" I said, "No, you can't. We recycle now." And she looked at me like I had 6 heads. Of course, any parent looks at their child, no matter how old and adult the child seems, they're still a little kid to them. And so I had to explain to her that now certain types of things had to be source separated because they could be recycled. It would be better for the environment than to put in the normal garbage stream. And it took time for her and my dad, of course, to adjust to something. They had lived, at that point in time, 60 some odd years of their life, and they'd done it one way, just throw it in the garbage and off it goes. And now they were going through an in-home change of the things they have to do. Well, that's 30 years ago. We've long past focusing just on that level of recycling. But there are things that people can do at home to protect the environment. And now that I'm in my 60s, it's me and my generation that have to change the way we do things in order to be adjusted to it. So maybe you can touch on some of the things that we can do at home, change our lifestyle, but improve the environment in the process.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm glad you touched on recycling, because in the three R's that people are so used to hearing, reduce, reuse, and recycle, I think recycle's gotten the most attention. And as you said, we've had time to really absorb that idea and adjust our lifestyle. And I think now that we're beginning to focus more on the reduce, which is really, really critical. And I know you guys are, doing some really good work on food scrap recycling. I'm proud to say that Teatown has partnered with Ossining to launch a new municipal food scrap program. Let's get our food waste down. Let's get our consumption down. And I think those kinds of choices in the home are really, really critical. So, getting people to not just recycle, but think about their consumption, think about trying to minimize their solid waste. And those are going to be things that we can really move the needle. And of course, there's simple things like taking the CFL light bulbs out and putting in LEDs. Those are the kinds of household things that everyone can do. But in the spirit of Earth Day, I think the most important thing that anybody can do is to be informed and vote and participate in the process. That's the true spirit of Earth Day. And if we're going to really make great strides in these areas, renewable energy obviously is one where future generations will look to us, and this is where we can really, really make a difference. But yeah, we're happy to be a part of it, and we're proud to work with your administration, George. You've been great on the environment. When you were in Albany, I remember you were so gracious, and we would sit in your office, and you were always happy to meet with the environmental organizations and do the good work. So thank you, and thank you for the excellent work you're doing in the county.
No, thank you, Kevin. We appreciate that. We're very fortunate to have a good team of people, particularly Peter McCart, who is our guru of all things regarding the energy and the environment. And we got a long way to go. I don't think anybody in public office can sit back and say, boy, look at what a great job we're doing on environmental issues. There are mountains that you climb. We've been able, for one example, to institute electric vehicle charging stations in a number of locations where the county owns the land. We can't impose it where we don't have the land. But in the process, we put up 10 charging stations at the North White Plains train station. We have other locations that we're setting up in different parts of the county, and that's a good thing. And we're looking at a solar collection program that involves the roofs of some of our buildings, and maybe carports that are done in a design that look fashionable, at the same time collect solar energy and run with less fossil fuel. And that's a good thing. But, we're dealing in a climate crisis that involves an infinite number of things that we have to do. So I would think that we're happy that we're making progress, but boy, oh boy, do we have a long way to go. Shifting over to the portion of the environment that involves parks and nature centers and natural areas, you're looking at a certain dynamic of people coming to Teatown because it is a wonderful place, but also representative of a desire that's generic, wherever you may be in the county, wherever you may be in the country, to really appreciate the out of doors. And if there has been a time, perhaps that we're appreciating the out of doors more, is when there are no theaters, there's no restaurants and bars, there's not that I go to bowling alleys, but there's no bowling alleys to go to, but there are the Teatowns of the world that we can enjoy outside. What are some of the ways that we can love our parks better?
Oh, I'm glad you brought that up. We're lucky, like you said, in Westchester to have, of course, an incredible network of county parks that you guys manage, as well as community-supported places like Teatown. And look, it's an honor for us that people want to come and visit and connect with nature. I mean, as I said earlier, that's really where our mission begins, is getting people outside. It's a tremendous relief and comfort and stress reliever to do it. The big thing now is just to encourage people to be mindful of the guidelines that are in place, practice social distancing when they come out. If they happen to go somewhere where it's very, very crowded, maybe reconsider coming at another time. early in the day or later in the day are definitely going to be safer. This past weekend, for example, Sunday, where we had a really warm weather day, it was the busiest that Teatown maybe has ever been. And it's not in itself a bad thing. It's wonderful, but we need to, during this time, we've got to be smart, and we've got to try to make those smart choices. I would also mention too that at this time of year, we're so focused on COVID that it's important when you go out, if you're going to go for a hike or walk with your family or yourself, better to wear long sleeves, be mindful of the ticks, that's going to be a reality again too. So all the things that we normally have to be concerned about, we still do, but by all means, take advantage of the beauty of nature, the healing power that it offers. We have so many great places to walk and hike in this county.
And Kevin, when I come to Teatown, should I wear my mask here? Is that necessary?
Yeah,
fashion statement?
Yeah, I have mine here too, George, so I can put mine on too. But maybe in the parking lots, if you're in an area where there's a high concentration of people, then it's good to have the mask on. Once you get out on the trail, and just try to practice the safe distancing. That's going to be really, really important. We're all learning with this thing every day. We're adjusting our lives accordingly, and I think that's the main thing, is just be smart, be mindful. We've got guidelines on our website about visiting. We welcome people. The exercise. I know for myself that if I don't get a daily walk in now, I'd go crazy. So we need to do it.
Now, for folks who are in other parts of the county, hopefully watching this today, I can never be sure of our viewership. It's always the coalition of the willing, as President Bush, the father, once said. There are people watching this perhaps from Yonkers, maybe from New Rochelle, perhaps from the eastern side of the county, in the northern part where they have other open areas as well. But they hear about Teatown, they want to check it out. How do I get to Teatown? What's the most obvious way to place where you are in the geography?
Right off of the Taconic. Where Teatown is, because of our size, we're actually in several towns. We're in Yorktown, we're in Newcastle. Our mailing address is actually Ossining, but we're right off of the Taconic. So if you're coming up the Taconic, we're just south of Yorktown, exit 14 off of the Taconic. That's, and if you like to come during the week, if you're able to, depending upon your schedule, I can pretty much assure you that you won't encounter the same crowds as you will on the weekends. So we welcome people to come and explore Teatown, check out the preserve. Right now, unfortunately, we don't have any programs, but normally once we return back and we emerge from this situation, we're very eager to get back to the programs, the environmental education programs we do. But in the meantime, the preserve, it belongs to our community. It's supported by the community. So by all means, anybody from any part of the county, come and share in it.
And since we're living our lives on the internet, you might as well give us your website information. People can jot it down. I'm revving the engine slowly so they can get out a pen and write this down. Share with us your website so that people can learn more about Teatown.
Thanks, George. Okay, so our website is www.teatown, TEATOWN.org, www.teatown.org. Come visit. We love to see people outside. Be safe when you do. And we wish everybody the best during this difficult time. And I want to thank George again and the county. Been a great partner to us for such a long time in so many endeavors. And I was thinking about Eagle Fest, George. I know you rarely miss it.
Yep.
We had an exciting Eagle Fest this last year. I'm proud that I have my picture here with President Clinton, who came. He came a little bit right after you guys left.
Right.
So it was a proud moment for all of us at Teatown, and we are really, really proud to be in this incredible Westchester community with such a strong tradition of environmental consciousness. So thank you.
Well, Kevin, thank you very much for being a part of the conversation this morning. We've been talking with Teatown Executive Director Kevin Carter and the Teatown facility right off the Taconic. If you see the signs for Poughkeepsie, you've gone too far. Back, but look for the signs. Ossining is what, Route 134? Is that the?
Yep. Yeah, it's right where the Taconic meets Route 134. Yeah.
And you can turn off there, and there are signs that will get you there, or you can just drive around the neighborhood. It's gorgeous, and you'll ultimately find Teatown sooner or later. In any event, I'm George Latimer, Westchester County Executive. We'll be back. We're targeted for a 2 o'clock update on the coronavirus. We'll share whatever other information we have at that time. In the meantime, have a good day, stay safe, and we'll talk to you later. Kevin, thanks again. Have a good day.
Thanks, you too, George.